All right, here we go. Video 4. So stepping up a little bit, getting some more high-tech gear. Got me a Bob Barker microphone, so hopefully it'll get rid of some of the background noise and keep the sound level consistent throughout the video. Today's video, me talking, very short, I promise. Really, it's pretty much just going to consist of a high-speed video of me disassembling as much as I can on this thing. There's so much that needs to come apart that I just want to use today to just try to get as much as I can apart. So be draining the radiator, taking the radiator out, alternator, the exhaust, and the intake manifold, carburetor, battery, fuel tank, fenders, this front frame assembly here, pretty much down to the point where I have just the engine block, right? I have an engine hoist back here. Hopefully I can get to the point where I can get that set up, get the engine pulled off the transmission and set up on an engine stand. So I'm hoping by the end of the day today, really all you should see is the end of frame assembly, the transmission, torque tube type area, and that's about it. So at least then I can start breaking it down into other components, right? Work on some engine stuff. I can start doing some paint, whatnot later down the line when it gets a little bit warmer. And then next weekend, most likely, is probably going to be the real grunt work of this project, the hard part of getting both sets of tracks off, removing the front idlers, the undercarriage from the frame, and pulling final drives and getting into the clutch housings, because I know both of these clutch assemblies, steering clutches, have issues. So hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully I can just kind of take them apart, get everything cleaned up. There's like a set of metal discs and a set of fiber discs, if you will, that kind of interchange, right? Like a clutch. And I'm hoping the metal ones are good, so I can just kind of clean those up, get some fiber ones, and move on. It starts getting real expensive when you have to get the whole kit for clutches on both sides and throw out bearings and all that, pressure plates. So we don't know till we get there, right? We'll just start peeling the onion back. So yeah, be a quick video, lots of messes, right? I got coolant I got to drain. I got oil in the engine I have to drain. Hydraulic hoses coming apart for the rams, for the blade. Lots of parts and pieces coming off. When it comes to stuff like wiring harnesses and everything, I don't save any of this stuff. It all comes out, because at the end of the day, when I restore this tractor, I want all new wiring. I want to make sure there's no grounds, no shorts, no loose connections, everything's good. So that'll all get replaced, new stuff. There's really not much to it. So that's about it. So with that being said, I'm going to stop the talking, I promise. And we'll get to the high-speed, speedy video of me taking this crawler apart. Let's see how long it'll take. And go.
Perfect.
Well, ran into yet another problem. So as I was removing this front bumper frame assembly from the front of the block of the engine, I realized, oh, I still have some coolant leaking out here. But radiator's off, coolant supply to the engine has finished draining the block out. So where's this coolant coming from? Well, unfortunately, as you can see over here, that little pinhole leak in my oil pan, and that's not oil coming out. So I'm sure it's a nice little combination of coolant, some fuel, might be some oil in there somewhere, but it's not looking like it. So very interesting to say the least. So guess I'll finish draining the coolant from my oil system and continue on. All right, the fun continues. So, let's see. I got the hydraulic pump off. That was the one that went on here. And it's got these Allen head bolts here, which I'll put one on so I can show you. Needless to say, not the easiest thing to get out when everything's, rusted together and stuff. So, anyway, hydraulic pump's off. Obviously the crank's stuck because it's full of water. Governor is going to stay on for now. I am trying to get the water pump off. It just makes it easier to do these things now while it's still on the engine and on the crawler. Once the engine goes on the engine stand, things move around. It's a lot harder to get it off. But anyway, we got most of them out. There's 3 that hold it on, and then these 2 are for the water pump line. But as you can see here, maybe I've started drilling the head out of this one. The Allen head, like I said, stripped, and not able to get it out. So I'm gonna have to drill the head off so that I can get the pump off, and hopefully I can work on cleaning and soaking and heating the shaft of that bolt so that eventually I can get it out. And then, as you can see here on the water pump coupling, I was able to get 2 of the 4 bolts out that held the fan on, and 2 of these broke. So I'm going to have to drill and tap those. It's just the nature of the beast with these old tractors. 15 feet away, it really didn't look too bad. Someone did a quick paint job on it. I mean, you can tell just looking at the, distributor, like there's paint on this side of it, but then on the inside, it's all rusted out. Behind the fan is rusted. So whoever painted this didn't disassemble and really clean it and replace gaskets and bearings and seals and do a nice prime and paint job like I do. Another example is, you probably saw me struggling with this sod pan earlier to get off. It's kind of like a belly pan that protects the bottom of the engine. So the sides of it were painted nice and green, and then underneath is just a rust show. So they didn't even take the time to take that off and paint underneath. So keep that in mind if you're looking to buy or purchase a tractor to restore that. You know, a lot of people like to just put lipstick on a pig, paint it real quick, make it look decent. Sorry, I had the microphone not clipped on my shirt. Hopefully that sounds a little better. But anyway, they'll paint it, make it look decent. You think you're getting a good deal, and when you start taking things apart like this, that's when you start finding all the hidden secrets. So anyway, that's all part of the fun. Unfortunately, every time we have problems like this, it just adds more time and sometimes money, which sucks. But anyway, all right, had a quick lunch break. Now it's back to work. Let's see if we can get this thing tore apart. Peace. All right, so here's something else we ran across. So I wasn't going to take the governor housing off yet, but I figured whatever, doesn't matter. It's all going to come apart anyway. This thing's just so messed up that it all needs to be gone through. Anyway, the governor housing goes on here. It's connected with your throttle and on your carburetor. And basically the way this thing works is, and I'll have a better video once I actually get this thing apart. But as the engine's running, this whole assembly's spinning, and these are basically flywheel weights. There's a little bearing. You can see this spin on here, and there's two little tangs that ride on that bearing. So when the engine's running, centrifugal force will make these weights find a center in the middle, or as the RPM increases, these weights are going to, from centrifugal force, start to spread out. And as they spread out, it pushes this thrust bearing forward on the shaft, and it moves that tang forward. Well, that tang is connected with, well, let me just get it over here. All right. Clip my mic on my shirt here so that I can show you with two hands. All right, here's the governor. Hello, governor. Here's the governor assembly, and it's got two shafts on the side. This short one over here goes to the carburetor, your throttle and your carburetor. See how it moves. This tall one goes up to, I don't know if it's in the frame, but anyway, there's a rod up here that goes to the throttle lever. So basic concept, you start the engine's running at your idle speed. You increase your RPM with your throttle. That makes this rod move down, which in turn moves a second rod to open up the butterfly on your your carburetor, and starts to increase engine RPM. Well, as the engine RPM increases, remember I was saying these weights, these fly weights will start to spread out from centrifugal force and slide this thrust bearing. Let's see if I can get it to move out. It's just all rusted on there. Anyway, that thrust bearing will come out and it'll push on these two little tangs that I was talking about, two little arms. And you can see when I move the lever that goes to my choke, those two tangs come in and out, right? So in the idle position, and as you increase RPM, it allows the arm to move to open the choke for more fuel, and it allows that the weights to come out a little further for engine RPM or increase. This also keeps the engine from spinning too fast, hence a governor. It governs the engine speed. That's kind of how that works. But anyway, so this is the inside. That'll have to get cleaned up, new bushings and whatnot. Let's see here. So let's see if we can get this to move with the screwdriver. Probably not. Yeah, it's just so rusted and stuff on there. I didn't bring a wire brush out with me. All right, here we're gonna do a quick power tool clean up. This thing's going to get completely redone anyway. Stand by. All right. Hopefully this will give you a rough idea here. All right. Now, here's that piece I was telling you about. It's on bearings. You can see how they're all wore out. You hear that? Junk, garbage. So this thrust bearing needs to be replaced. Everything's just so locked up. I mean, these weights should pivot out. There we go. It's so tight. I mean, it stays where it's at. It's supposed to flop around loose. Anyway, wow, those are kind of starting to free up there. But anyway, I can kind of get the idea. Let's see if we can get this to work. This ended up turning into a tutorial after all. There's a little brake cleaner on there. Brake cleaner is amazing stuff. It really cleans out all kinds of gook and gunk and junk like that. And then I got this stuff called Cano Aerocoil. Awesome stuff. I use it at work. Can't usually find it in stores. You got to usually buy it online, but it works really good at creeping in and lubricating things. I mean, you can see, I mean, look at that. That's how it's supposed to move. It's supposed to move really free, right? So I'm going to put a little more in the shaft. This is nowhere near as clean as it should be, but I'm just trying to give you a rough idea how this works. All right, there we go. So engine spins, kicks up in RPM. These flywheel weights are going to move out from centrifugal force, and you can see this middle thrust bearing starting to move out on this shaft. Pushes on the tangs. Just works with your carburetor, your throttle input, and your governor. They all work together, and keep your engine at a steady RPM. Wherever you set your throttle, it's going to maintain it. It's going to govern it. It's going to tell it where to stay, not to go any more, not any less. That's pretty much it. It's going to be the driving force to what keeps your engine from overspeeding, right? Going too fast. So anyway, this isn't supposed to be a tutorial. I just got to this part and saw how jacked up it was and thought we could have a little training on a governor here. And then this is the drive for the hydraulic pump, like I told you. Water pump for the engine cooling. Anyway, I'm going to keep pulling some stuff apart. I'm going to get this exhaust manifold off next. I got some of these bolt loosened. Excuse me. One of them stuck. I'm going to have to cut it off. So you'll see some grinding and sparks and do some fun stuff. All right, well, that wasn't too bad. We got most of the components off the engine itself. Got the gas tank, the console off. It just makes it easier to get the engine hoist in there and get the engine picked out. So I'm going to clean up some of this mess because I don't need all these tools out here. And I'm going to get the engine hoist set up, and we'll get these bolts broke free over here, the ones that hold the engine onto the transmission bell housing, torque tube, And let's see if we can't get this engine off today. Alrighty, let's do it. Well, hell. So the engine's out, as you can see. I decided to take a shortcut. I was being too lazy to put together my engine hoist because it's not your average engine hoist. It's a homemade job that was made by a guy who worked on outboard engines on boats. So it's fairly heavy duty. You will see it in another video because I'm going to have to use it for the final drives to get those off. But anyway, thought I'd speed things along today and use the loader from the tractor to pull the engine off, which isn't always the safest thing to do. I'll be the first to tell you that. You know, in the event of a hydraulic hose failure, which I've had happen on this tractor before, you know, having the weight of the engine on there, a hose could blow and the loader come down. So obviously I knew the risk of that, and obviously keep all arms and digits and whatnot clear, but still stuff happens fast. So, you know, probably not the smartest thing for me to have done today, but anyway, it's done. The engine's out. The other good thing about the engine hoist is you have a little more control over up and down and left and right, and a little more finesse. With this thing, it's just like slamming around, and unfortunately, I did break something. It's probably rusted out, rotted out anyway, but this is your throw-out bearing that pushes against the clutch to disengage the pressure plate from your clutch assembly on the flywheel in order to shift gears. So this is supposed to slide on the shaft. When you push the clutch in, these forks move this throw-out bearing into the springs of the pressure plate here and separates the clutch pack. Anyway, so that sounds terrible. Well, that's the throw-out bearing. That's supposed to spin nice and smooth and not make any noise. It's really not gouged up too bad, but it needs to be replaced anyway. However, I did break the shaft that it sits on because I torqued and tweaked it sideways, which it's not meant to go. So I'm gonna have to get that replaced. Anyway, I'm sure you can probably see there's some type of rodent infestation going on in there. I doubt there's anything in there now, but lots of hay and acorns and grass. And if that's not bad enough, then while they're living in there, they also do their number ones and number twos. And down in this section here, it's pretty wet and it gets really rusty. This is like a dust guard, if you will, that goes behind the oil pan. So when the engine's on, it keeps debris and stuff from getting inside and getting all over the teeth of the flywheel for the starter and everything. But anyway, so this sits in there and it acts like a little trap to hold all that stuff. So as you can see, it's pretty rotted out and corroded. So that's what urine does to metal. I mean, it's like salt water. It just eats away at it. So it's not uncommon. That's a normal thing for tractors, especially left outside, left in the field. So anyway, the goal was to get the engine off today. We did that. I do still need to get it onto the engine stand over here, but in order to get that on, I have to take the pressure plate and the flywheel and all that off, and I'm just not feeling it today. I'm not going to lie to you. It's I don't know, like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and it's time for a break. This flywheel that's on here is heavy. I don't even know. I'm going to say probably 60, 70 pounds. So, I mean, not heavy, but I mean, it's heavy enough. So, yeah, there's just still some more stuff to do. There's like 6 bolts here to get the pressure plate off. I think there's like 4 bigger bolts to get the flywheel off, if I remember right. It's been a while. But anyway, this shaft connects the clutch and the flywheel to the transmission. So it's called a propeller shaft. Usually these things are pretty wore out from people slamming them in gear and back and forth, forward and reverse, but so it doesn't look too bad. Anyway, lots to do. Got a lot done today. Once I get this clutch system apart and I can get the engine onto the engine stand, then I don't know, maybe next weekend we'll do the engine instead of the undercarriage. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I really am not looking forward to looking inside this engine. I know it's just lots of bad news. I pulled the exhaust manifold off here. I know you're not going to be able to see this in the camera, but I mean, it's all rusted inside there. I can imagine the valve trains tore up. I don't know. We'll see. It might even come to where when I start taking this apart, it's just not even worth fixing this one and just get a different engine. So I'd like to keep this one. It's the original one for it, but we'll see how it goes. So engine stuff to come. Taking tracks off, undercarriage, that's another video. Final drives and clutch housings, that's another video. We'll get, I don't know, so I'm going to take this whole torque tube and transmission out. I guess I'll pop the cover off the transmission and look and see how things are looking inside there. I'm sure it has to be manually cleaned. You can't just drain and fill and flush on these things. And, you know, decades of sitting in outdoor environments and corrosion, it just wreaks havoc on gears. So anyway, at some point you're going to see this whole thing apart in pieces. So it's not easy. It's as you can imagine, everything is heavy. I mean, cylinders and engines and tracks and pads, and I mean, it's not like everything weighs 600 pounds, right? But I mean, I guess you'd have an easier hobby if you did like knitting or fly fishing or some shit. Anyway, nothing against those. I like fishing, but anyway, it's just the nature of the beast. Everything's heavy, everything's rusted, everything's corroded. Bolts break, nuts and bolts are stripped out. Lots of drilling, tapping, welding, time, right? Just cleaning threads off as close as you can to bare metal, spraying with lubricant, penetrant, just waiting, letting things sit, nature take its course. Lots of heat, right? We got the oxyacetylene tanks filled, so we can use the torch to heat things if we need to. That's about it. So I know I'd said this video wasn't going to be tutorial, which turned into partially. We're talking about the Gavna and a few things that just happened along the way. I just figured, you know, it's not always easy peasy just taking stuff apart and that's it. I mean, shit happens, right? Things break, things get stuck. So I'll try to stop those hyper videos and let you know what's going on, or like, why is this guy staying in the same spot for like, you know, forever? It's probably an issue. So anyway, that's it for this weekend. I appreciate it. Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow. Hopefully get some good views on this one. And if you can, share the page, like, subscribe. I'm just trying to have fun, but it's fun seeing the numbers go up too. I kind of hit a little low, you know. So help your boy out. Anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Hopefully you learned something today. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace out.